Have you ever felt the urge to run for the hills when a relationship starts to get serious? That sudden, almost primal instinct to flee when things start to get real? Like a sudden need to reorganize your sock drawer or call your second cousin twice removed? It's as if your brain is looking for any excuse to avoid the situation at hand. Don't worry, you're not alone. Many people experience this urge, and it's a well-documented phenomenon in psychology. It's called avoidant attachment, and it's more common than you think. This attachment style can manifest in various ways, often leading to a cycle of closeness and withdrawal. It's like an automatic reflex, a defense mechanism that kicks in when emotional intimacy starts to feel a bit too close for comfort. This reaction can be traced back to early childhood experiences and how we learn to cope with emotional stress. It's not that avoidant individuals don't want love or connection. They do. In fact, they often crave it deeply, but are simultaneously terrified of the vulnerability it requires. But the fear of getting hurt, of being vulnerable, can sometimes feel as overwhelming as a black hole. This fear can create a push-pull dynamic in relationships where the desire for closeness is constantly at odds with the fear of intimacy. So what's going on in those mysterious brains of ours? How does avoidant attachment shape our thoughts and behaviors? Let's dive into the fascinating world of neuroscience and explore the inner workings of the avoidant mind. We'll look at how brain chemistry and neural pathways contribute to this attachment style. We'll unravel the science behind this common attachment style, sprinkle in some Stoic wisdom, and discover practical strategies to rewrite our relationship scripts. By understanding the root causes, we can begin to change our patterns and build healthier connections. Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride through the cosmos of attachment. Together, we'll navigate the complexities of the avoidant mind and find ways to foster deeper, more meaningful relationships. To understand avoidant attachment, we need to peek inside the control center, the brain. This complex organ is where all our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors originate. It's a fascinating interplay of various regions working together, or sometimes against each other. Two key players in this emotional drama are the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. These regions are crucial in how we process and respond to emotional stimuli, especially in the context of relationships. Think of the prefrontal cortex as the wise CEO of your brain. It's the part that helps us make rational decisions, plan for the future, and control our impulses. Without it, we'd be lost in a sea of emotions. It's responsible for rational thinking, planning, and decision-making. This region helps us weigh the pros and cons of a situation, allowing us to act in our best interest. Then there's the amygdala, the emotional fire alarm. This small, almond-shaped cluster of neurons is always on the lookout for danger, ready to sound the alarm at the slightest hint of threat. It's constantly scanning for threats and triggering the fight-or-flight response. This mechanism is essential for our survival, but it can also be a source of anxiety and stress. In avoidant individuals, this alarm system is on high alert, especially when it comes to intimacy. The amygdala perceives emotional closeness as a potential threat, causing the person to pull away. When emotional closeness triggers the amygdala's alarm bells, it sends signals to the prefrontal cortex, urging it to take action. This creates a tug-of-war between the desire for connection and the fear of vulnerability. The prefrontal cortex then steps in like a skilled diplomat, trying to de-escalate the situation. It attempts to calm the amygdala, offering logical explanations and strategies to manage the perceived threat. It might rationalize the threat, downplay the importance of the relationship, or come up with reasons to create distance. This internal conflict can lead to a pattern of avoidance, where the individual continually seeks to protect themselves from emotional pain by keeping others at arm's length. The amygdala doesn't discriminate between real physical threats and perceived emotional ones. It is the brain's alarm system, always on the lookout for danger, whether it's a growling dog or a partner's intense gaze. This small almond-shaped cluster of nuclei is crucial for our survival, but it can also be a source of significant distress in our relationships. To the amygdala, a hug can feel like an attack, A gesture of affection can be misinterpreted as a threat. This is especially true for those who have experienced trauma or inconsistent caregiving in their formative years. A declaration of love can feel like a threat to its independence, triggering a fight-or-flight response. The brain, in its attempt to protect, can sabotage the very connections we crave. This heightened sensitivity is often rooted in early childhood experiences. When a child feels neglected or emotionally abandoned, their brain wires itself to expect and prepare for rejection. If caregivers were emotionally unavailable or inconsistent, the developing brain learns to associate closeness with pain or rejection. This creates a blueprint for future relationships, where intimacy is seen as a potential source of hurt. These early experiences shape neural pathways, creating a well-worn path of avoidance. The brain becomes adept at dodging emotional closeness, reinforcing the cycle of fear and loathing in relationships. Over time, these pathways become so ingrained that the brain automatically defaults to avoidance whenever emotional intimacy arises. This automatic response can be difficult to change, but awareness is the first step. It's like having a mental shortcut that bypasses the possibility of connection and leads straight to emotional detachment. Understanding this mechanism can help us find new paths, ones that lead to healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward, also plays a role in avoidant attachment. For many people, dopamine is released when we experience the excitement of new love, the thrill of the chase. But for those with an avoidant attachment style, dopamine levels tend to plummet once a relationship settles into a comfortable, predictable rhythm. This drop in dopamine can lead to feelings of boredom, restlessness, and a desire for novelty. It's like the brain is constantly seeking that initial dopamine rush, leading to a cycle of seeking out new relationships, but never fully committing to one. Section 5. Stoicism and Self-Awareness, Recognizing Our Patterns. The ancient Stoic philosophers offer valuable insights into understanding and managing our emotions. As Epictetus wisely said, it's not things themselves that disturb men, but their judgments about these things. This quote highlights the importance of recognizing our own thought patterns and how they influence our emotional responses. Avoidant individuals often have negative beliefs about relationships and intimacy. They might fear being trapped, losing their independence, or being overwhelmed by their partner's needs. These beliefs, often unconscious, fuel the amygdala's fire and perpetuate the cycle of avoidance. Section 6. Mindfulness to the Rescue, Taming the Avoidant Beast. One of the most effective ways to manage avoidant tendencies is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It helps us become more aware of our thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensations, allowing us to observe our avoidant impulses without being swept away by them. Meditation, deep breathing exercises, and body scan techniques are all powerful tools for cultivating mindfulness. By practicing mindfulness regularly, we can begin to create a space between our thoughts and our actions, giving us more control over our responses. Section 7. Hedgehog Love, Finding Comfort in Connection. Imagine a group of hedgehogs on a cold winter night. They want to huddle together for warmth, but their prickly spines make it painful to get too close. This analogy perfectly captures the dilemma of avoidant attachment. The desire for connection exists, but the fear of getting hurt creates an invisible barrier. The key is to find a way to manage those metaphorical spines, to learn how to regulate our emotional responses so that closeness doesn't feel so threatening. It's about gradually expanding our comfort zones one small step at a time. Section 8. From Fear to Freedom, Rewiring for Healthier Relationships. Rewiring our attachment patterns is a journey, not a quick fix. It takes time, effort, and a willingness to challenge our deeply ingrained beliefs. Therapy can be incredibly beneficial in this process. A skilled therapist can help us understand the root of our avoidance, develop healthier coping mechanisms, and learn how to communicate our needs effectively. Remember, change is a process, not a destination. There will be setbacks along the way, moments when those old avoidant tendencies resurface. The key is to approach ourselves with compassion and understanding. Section 9. Conclusion. The journey to secure connections. As Seneca wisely observed, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Embracing the possibility of change, of letting go of old patterns that no longer serve us, can be daunting. But it's in that space of letting go that we create the opportunity for something new and beautiful to emerge. The journey to secure attachment might not be easy, but it's a journey worth taking. By understanding the science behind our avoidant tendencies, cultivating self-awareness, and practicing mindfulness, we can begin to rewrite our relationship scripts and create deeper, more fulfilling connections.